The main fight between Jose Ramirez, 29 wins, 18 of them KO, 1 loss, and the loss was against Josh Taylor, the one that used to be undisputed, against Rances, Barthelemy, Cuban fighter, 30 wins, 15 of them KO, 3 losses, 1 of them via KO, and 1 draw. I'm going to give you my honest opinion. The way that Jose Ramirez fights, he doesn't have defense. There's no defense in there. There's none in existence. And one time he fell down. And this is one thing that I learned. I watched this fight in Spanish, and the Spanish broadcaster said that that was a KO. But since the referee didn't call it a KO, and this is something that I did not know since the fight happened in Fresno, California, is that the California Commission could say or could rule it a knockout during the fight, and the judges, they'll let the referee know, and the judges will then call it a knockout. The person announcing, he was from Florida, and he said that on the Florida Commission, they have the same ruling, since I'm not sure if he was a referee, a fighter, or a judge in Florida, or whatever the case might be. But he said that that's one ruling that California also has with Florida, that they could rule it a knockout after, even though that the referee didn't call it a knockout. At the same time, when Jose Ramirez put the glove on the canvas, which they consider it a trip, or he slipped, or whatever the case might be, the referee put aside Rances, but Rances kept on hitting him. He hit him 5 more times. Unlike the Devin Haney fight, there was no deduction of points or nothing. They just gave him a warning, and the fight continued. The referee did talk to Jose Ramirez, and then after that, they continued the fight. At the same time, like I said, Jose Ramirez, he couldn't guard that left hook. It's something about that left hook in these last 3 fights that I've seen. The Vergil Ortiz, he was guarding for that left hook. And I do recommend to watch that video or that fight, because you could see that he does not move his right hand, and unguard his temple so the hook could go in there. Jose Ramirez, he's similar to Devin Haney. They cannot guard the left hook. They were getting hit. And that's the one that, for me, is the one that wobbled Jose Ramirez. And technically he slipped, but for me, he did go down since he put his hand on the canvas. And you could see multiple times that the left hook was just hitting. The downfall for Rances is that's the only weapon that he had. Or if you heard the Fight in the Sun, Sergio Mora, I believe he was the announcer that said a one-trick pony, but that's all that Ryan Garcia needed. Well, Ryan Garcia has more tools in the box compared to Rances. That's all Rances had. He was throwing that jab like a haymaker, and that was it. And one time when Ramirez went to his corner after he got hit multiple times with that left hook, Robert Garcia, who's the trainer of him and Vergil Ortiz, and both of them are not the same, even in their style of fighting. Robert Garcia said, "Sube la pinche mano," which the clean version in English is raise your hands, or raise, what he probably was trying to say is raise that right hand to guard your temple, because it was obvious that he was moving it to the back, or not moving it to the back, but lowering it down when he was punching, that he was getting hit. Unlike Devin Haney that likes to move it back. And that's one thing that I think both fighters' weaknesses. Now, what's another difference between Devin Haney and Jose Ramirez is that Devin Haney has a weak shin, and compared to Jose Ramirez, that even though he wobbled, he could still withstand those punches, because they were throwing haymaker after haymaker after haymaker. Now, a couple of things that I like about the fight, besides the fight or Jose Ramirez throwing so many punches, X amount of punches, is that there was no hugging. Even though he was wobbling, he didn't hug. There was no clinching. And Rances, even though he was getting punched, there was no clinching. And the way that Jose Ramirez countered that left hook, he got close. It's like head-to-head fighting. And To be honest, I felt like there was going to be a headbutt. There was going to be bleeding on the head, like the Fundura versus Tim Tszyu, while Tim Tszyu got nearby and then he got hit, I believe, by the elbow. On this fight, there was no such thing, even though both of them were like rams, clinched together on their head. And I believe that Jose Ramirez's tactic was that. Why? Because the jab, the way that Frances was throwing it, it was, you had to get X amount of reach to hit. So once he got closer, that jab was non-existent. And that's how I believe Jose Ramirez won that fight, by getting close and just keep on hitting the body, keep on throwing those uppercuts and hitting the tempo that Frances, either A, he didn't have a lot of energy, or two, he's not used to that head-to-head type of boxing. And besides that, even though that Jose Ramirez has 11 fights out of all the fights that he has in Fresno, and I believe half of them are in Fresno and Las Vegas, which Las Vegas, I kind of know why, because that's like the main mecca of boxing in the US. I think that once he fights a boxer that knows how to fight that type of fight, we'll say like a Teofimo, he's going to lose because his defense is non-existent. And you could wait to hit that tempo. Now that you saw what Frances did on that tempo when it was open, which basically was all the time. And like I said, Ramirez doesn't have no defense. And I believe a boxer like Teofimo, Pitbull could easily beat him up. And that's just my honest opinion. And that's all I got. And by the way, the winners of this 3 fights, for me, it's Golden Boy, of course, and Robert Garcia, who trains Jose Ramirez, that won, and Virgil Ortiz, that won. More money for him, but at the same time, more recognition. And like I said, 2 boxers that won. And that's all I got. Thank you. Thank you for watching.